The best ones we've done aren't any of those things. It's the book launches.
Oh, we do. We have a huge event when we launch a book over at the brewery. Mm-hmm. There's usually a reading, but last time we had a group of actors act out a scene from the book.
I have the YouTube video, so I can send it to you. Yeah.
The brewery
brews a beer
for us,
based on the book.
Based on a description from the book. Deb writes songs.
I wrote a ballad that Tim, the guy that owns the brewery, he and I sang together. And then there's a chant. Ross is doing the Baron, and we're in costume. And I do the chant, and he does the Baron.
We always have other authors come.
Always have other authors.
They have their tables where they have their books.
Right.
So.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. Normally I have one author on my screen when I'm doing this interviews, and today I've doubled that up, and I'm so excited. I have two co-authors on together, and I'm sure we're going to be well behaved. We're going to keep everything all good today. You know, feel like I'm being ganged up a little bit because I have two guests instead of one, but I'm sure we're going to have a great time. We're got Ross and Deb on the podcast today, part co-authors on books together, co-authors and writing together and doing a great job writing their stories. I'm excited to get into this. Welcome to Living the Next Chapter. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I always ask everybody off the top where you are in this big world of ours.
We are in Milwaukee.
The beautiful Milwaukee.
Yeah, right.
There you go. Excellent. And what's the one thing that keeps you in Milwaukee? You mentioned that you move around.
Right.
Why Milwaukee?
Yeah. We've lived a lot of places. And I grew up in the South, so living in a cold environment to me was frightening when I came here for a job. But we love Milwaukee.
Oh, yeah.
And it's our favorite place that we've ever lived. It's just a really easy place to live.
Great airport.
Great airport.
That's like no small thing, right?
It's got all the things that you want in a big city, but it still feels a little like a small city. You can get anywhere within like 10 or 15 minutes.
Within walking distance of our house is grocery store, our doctors, our dentist, and a brewery where we hang out a lot and write books.
Right, yeah.
So you really can't beat that.
Can't beat a brewery next. I
no,
like that idea.
But no, you cannot.
Anyone who's thinking about moving, you would hate it here.
Right, we don't want any more people. We're good. We're really good. We like the level of traffic now.
Right.
So it's great to visit, spend your money, but then go back.
Go home.
Go home.
We have that here in Niagara Falls where people come and visit and we're like, okay, we're good. All right, we're closing up now. We're going to shut the falls off.
Yeah.
Time to go. We turn the water off at night. So, yeah.
And the winter didn't turn out to be as bad as I thought it was going to be until around March. And then, I don't know if it's the same in Niagara, but around March, I'm over the winter.
You just get done.
You're done.
Done. Yeah.
That's another time to go to the brewery when you're feeling that way for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Tell us about your relationship, the two of you. How did all this happen? I'd like to know a little bit more of that too.
Well, we were both in grad school in Atlanta, which is a little odd because she grew up in the North and went to her undergraduate in Virginia. So it was just kind of a fluke that she ended up in Atlanta.
And it was a real fluke that we ended up in the same class because
we only had one class that would be in common in our programs, and we were on completely different sides of the campus.
Completely different people, to be honest. Very different. And
it's like one of those moments in your life where you're thinking somebody's in charge. You know?
I know, right? Yeah, and we fought our first date.
Well,
oh my God.
I was a terrible graduate student, just barely got out. But so I went to grad school. I was serious. You know, I'd sit in the front. I'd work hard. She was sitting in the back, and we had to do these oral reports. And so when he asked for volunteer for the first one, she's sitting in the back. She goes, "I'll do it." Yep. And I look back. It was it for me.
That was it, eh?
Took me a little longer.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's like a big sign pointing, like here, right there.
That's right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But we've been together. But we've been together, God, since 1985, married since 1987.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Long time.
I asked her out, and she said yes. And then just one day after class before that date, I said, "Well, you want to go have a beer?" So we went and had a beer, and we just got into the worst fights.
Oh my God.
I mean, if we had not had that date scheduled, that would have been it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I would put men through the ringer.
Yeah, she was
because they could be weak, and there was no way I was going. No, he needed to be able to fight back. Just the facts, because honestly, like I had so many guys who were like, whatever you want. I'm like, no. And so I pushed and pushed, and he pushed back. I'm like, huh.
So 35 years later.
Here we are, 36, 30. Yeah, many, many years.
So you just got that out of the way right away. I love that. And now you're writing together.
Yeah.
Russ, I believe you started writing on your own first. Is that correct?
Yep. I always, the idea of being an author to me was just this amazing thing, that I never thought I could do. I mean, I tried to write a short story when I was like ninth grade, and it was so hard and so bad that I just said, okay, I don't have it. Whatever that thing is that you need, I don't have it. And then, but I've always, when I in bed at night, I tell myself stories. It's just a way for me to kind of calm my mind down. And about 5 years ago, I was thinking about, I read fantasy. A big fan of fantasy, and I was trying to think about how fantasy authors come up with magic systems, because magic is, what fantasy is all about. And the only thing I remember was this idea that if a person was young and they became magically adept, it caused pain in the people around them. And so I'm trying to imagine what their life would be like. And for some reason, that the next morning when I woke up, it was just like a snowy, late fall day in Milwaukee. I blew off work. I went right to a coffee shop, and I sat down and started writing. And I have no idea why. I cannot, for the life of me, reconstruct the events that led me to that. And I wrote for about 2 or 3 hours, and I say it's awful. But when I was done, I was just so excited. I was thrilled. I was walking out of there like I was walking on a cloud. I knew I was going to write after that. And I decided, we're academics. And so what we do when we have a problem is we
research.
So I determined I was going to make myself a good writer. And then it went on from there.
Yep.
And that story I wrote ended up being a key chapter in the middle of my first novel. Way better now than it was.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Deb, while Ross is talking, I can see Deb on the screen nodding. Kind of her eyes get big. She's responding to you, Ross, as you're talking. And I love watching this. So I got my one eye on you too, Deb, as we kind of go through this. As he starts his writing career, what are you thinking, Deb? He's supposed to be at work, first of all.
Yeah.
Where you go to, like, why are you not at work today? What was your reaction in that moment?
I knew he was struggling at work. I mean, he just retired, and he retired early in part to write.
Just this past summer.
Wow.
And which was a little early, and I'm the one in charge of all the finances. And so I looked at the money. I went, yeah, just go ahead. You can do it. But what I saw in him was he struggles sometimes with getting depressed, getting anxious. There was a lot about his job he really hated. And even though he loved the people, but he was struggling. And I was just trying to drag him to the retirement line here, just like trying to pull him and make sure that he made it, and he was happier with the writing than he'd ever been with anything I'd ever seen him. He's done woodworking. He's done a lot of other stuff. We raised kids. But that I saw something that was different. And so that's when I started really encouraging him and, and then sticking with him. And then the day he said that we were co-authors of the book, I about fell out because we have getting more and more and more. And right now it's like a big chunk of what we do together as people, and I never expected that. And this is really, I'll be retiring in about a year and a half. And then that's what we're going to be doing.
Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like our retirement. It's not something we're ever going to make money on. I don't think, only because, you sell, but I don't know how many authors do you know that like really make money?
Yeah.
But I guess some do. That part we've never been able to figure out. But
no, we're not doing it for the money. If money comes, that would be awesome. But
that'd be awesome.
That's not the reason we do it. But when I first started writing, I would show Deb what I wrote, and she was she was an English major.
So I started picking at the words.
Yeah.
And I say, I don't think that's the right word. Blah, blah, blah. And
I wanted her to read the story, right? Yeah. So we had some conflict there.
Ooh, yeah.
Until we figured it out. We figured out that we were going like this.
Right.
And then it just got fun.
Yeah.
I love this because a lot of the authors I talk to write in solitary. They're just like, there's no one else around. They're just on their own. They feel alone in the process of writing their books. And the fact that you have each other is such a unique thing that I think is so amazing because there's built-in motivation. There's built-in dialogue happening. Mm-hmm. And I think Ross, would you say your writing is better for having the two of you a part of the process?
Yeah.
It better be.
It better be.
I just gave you a look. I know. Yeah. Like we said, no, I don't know.
That was better before. Yeah. No.
It definitely is. I mean, the stories are there's some depth to them that it wouldn't be there before.
Yeah.
Without Deb. So that's definitely true.
Yeah. And I love it when okay, so here's what happens. We'll get at a difficult part of the story where it's like, this isn't working. There's something missing. There's something wrong. And I'll say, okay, what if you added this? And invariably, or almost invariably, he'll go, I'll think about it. And then not always, but a lot of the time, that's what ends up in the book one way or another. But it has to go through the Rossinator first. Like it has to go through his brain. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like it has to, and that's the reason that we're eventually going to write another series of books. But I've started writing short stories separately. Don't have a lot of time, but that's where my writing happens. I don't think we can write together because there has to be one voice.
We have different styles.
We have very different voices.
Mm-hmm.
I am writing all the copy for the next book that's going to come out, Dzultai, like all the blurbs and stuff, which is a totally different thing. It's not writing at all. It's going, blah, buy the book, blah, here it is, blah. Like it's so, because you want to write people aren't reading it to find out how you are as a writer. They read it to go, is this a book I want to read?
Yeah.
And very different. So I'm listening to a lot of podcasts on how to write a hook, how to write, which is actually one of the reasons we thought about the podcast it was like how to get excitement out about the books, how to talk with people about the world so that they do eventually pick up the book.
Yeah. That's one thing we were not prepared for is the marketing part of it. It's not fun. It's not fun. I mean, we like the podcasts. There's some aspects of marketing that we're okay with, but a lot of it we're not fond of it.
Yeah.
So that's why we were thinking about doing a podcast, right? So we could, that was a
You're preaching to the choir. I collect them like tchotchkes now. Deb, what from your perspective and your research then, for a new author that's listening, how do we write a good hook? Anything that you can share with us? Give us some wisdom.
Okay. So one of the first things, and I was like listening to this and writing it down.
Yeah.
And one of the first things is don't try to explain the book. Don't try to explain the book at all. Don't try to do any plot. Talk about the character, one character, or whoever the main character is. Talk about their emotions and what their circumstances are. Get them down to the essence. So in the next book, Tove, who's a member of the Ostera Rebellion, blah, blah, blah. She's going to be the main character in this next book. And my hook is, let me see, how was it? The tyranny of the Volan Empire is written in the scars across Tove's face.
Yeah, because she has a scar on her face.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right?
Nice.
And that's like, okay, that like, now you know who that is.
You got me.
Right? Yeah. So then I would say, oh, well, she's a member of the Ostera Rebellion and she's Alaos and she blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Nope. No. Cut. And she's also gay and wants to live with other women. And so she joins this group of female assassins, mostly just to hang out with other women and turn into a badass. I mean, there's other reasons too.
It's not quite that.
It's not quite that. No, but see, that's exactly right. See, like Ross would go, no, that's not right. That's not right at all. It's like, yeah, but we just want to get people to pick up the book.
Yeah.
Right.
So my descriptions explain the whole book.
Yeah.
And I write really complicated stories.
Yeah. And so I'm like, so it's like, no, cut it down to the simplest. Don't explain the plot at all. Get to, and the stakes. The stakes have to be really high. Like it either has to be death or enlightenment or love. Those are the three. Like, so to hook somebody in. So the stakes have to be high. Self-discovery. So, yeah.
That whole inner world, that type of thing that pulls you in right away, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great tip for new authors now as you're thinking about, because I do think authors tend to get stuck in the details because they love their story and they don't feel like any part of the story is disposable. You need to know the whole thing. That's why I wrote an entire book. I want you to buy the whole thing, not just one chapter. So I think that's a delicate balance. And I like the fact that the two of you, again, bounce off each other, and even just your description of that. I like how Ross kind of steps in there and goes, wait a minute.
I know, right?
The whole thing is important here, by the way, just so you know. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So which is kind of one of the reasons we tend to bifurcate these things. We work together on a lot of stuff, but then there's some stuff like,
then one person goes off and does it.
Out of my way. This is mine, and then we'll bring it back to the other person, and always with kindness.
Yeah.
We've both had to learn that, like, always be kind. This is the person's heart out there. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. So don't smash it when they share it. So,
okay. Yep. So beyond guesting on podcasts, which we're doing right now, which is awesome. I love having guests on to talk about their books. What else have you done to help promote the book? Any other things that have been working for you?
A couple of good things. All right.
Well, I'm doing TikTok, but I have no illusions.
You're doing the dances and stuff? Great.
Yeah, I have no illusions that it's ever going to sell any books.
No, he just talks about.
I just talk about.
He just talks
writing.
about stuff.
Yeah,
right.
We've done promotions on Amazon and social media posts.
However, the best ones we've done aren't any of those things. It's the book launches.
Oh, we do. We have a huge event when we launch a book over at the brewery.
Yes, good.
And there's usually a reading, but last time we had a group of actors act out a scene from the book.
Come on. I love this.
I have the YouTube video, so I can send it to you.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
The brewery
brews a beer
for us.
Based on the book.
Based on the description from the book.
Come on.
I know, right?
Deb writes songs.
I wrote a ballad that he and I, that Tim, the guy that owns the brewery, he and I sang together. And then there's a chant. Ross is doing the Baron, and we're in costume. And I do the chant, and he does the Baron. And I know, right?
Come on.
And we always have other authors come.
Always have other authors.
They have their tables where they have their books.
Right.
So.
But okay, so the next one, and I don't know how I'm going to pull this off, is, and he's going, no.
Here we go.
All right. So it's the world of Argren, and it's medieval world, right? So I'm thinking a Ren fair, because they always have, in the books, we have festivals, right?
Yeah.
So we want to do Ren fair. So it's like, Argren fair. So it's going to be a Ren fair, but it's Argren, right?
See?
I know, right? So I'm trying right now. I'm working really hard to come up with different vendors. The brewery is going to help us. They've hosted events before. There's a big park across the street. So we're going to set up a Ren fair, and I'm sure we'll do a reading. But in this next book, we're splitting that book in two. So it's not going to be, but one of the things that we thought about was a plein air where people paint, because
art's a big part of
the book. But to have a plein air event where people are actually painting while they're there, that one, I don't know yet. I gotta figure it out, but I want to make it an annual event. It's going to be the weekend right after our local Ren fair ends. So early fall. And so that's my next big lift.
So yeah, I try not to squash her dreams, because
every single time they've happened,
her dreams usually come to fruition.
They've happened.
She drags me along the whole way.
I know, but did we have 2 great book launches?
We did.
Yes, we did.
So I keep my mouth shut. I roll my eyes.
Yeah. And then pick up something and carry it. Right.
That's right.
That's it.
That's a lot of it.
That's it. Yeah.
And I do.
Okay, so that is so unique.
Yeah.
And then to have your own logger for your book, that is unique.
Yeah,
what a
that's
great relationship
cool.
you have.
It's called Alaos Ale, and they're the Alaos people. So it's Alaos Ale, and they're I know, and it's good. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that was all in the plans when you're writing. We're going to turn this into an ale. We're going to have this big event. Right.
Yeah, that's sure.
There's ales in the book, and in fact, the Black Husky was written into the book, so it's in the book.
Well, it was in the prequel, the second book. So we did our first launch, and then we had so much fun there, and we spent a lot of writing. So I created a tavern in the prequel book that's called the Black Husky,
which is right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun.
What did they think of that?
I'm not sure. I thought they would be like, awesome.
He overreads. I underread.
I'm an overreader.
He's like on the subliminal. I'm superliminal. Mm-hmm. And so I'm thinking, they love it. They love me. They love you. Everything's great. And Ross is going, no, but they gave us a funny look. Oh, no. So, yeah.
Oh, but, I'm the writer. So
he's the writer.
I read people and I'm going, oh.
Did they really like it? I don't know.
So that can put that into the story. Right?
Yes.
Well, it's now in the podcast as well. So that's going out as free advertisement for them. So I'm sure they're going to be quite pleased when people are like, I want to check out this place. This sounds amazing. So we'll make sure we have links to
Milwaukee,
that.
we'll take you there.
Yeah, the first beer is on us in Milwaukee, and they always have dogs. So if you're a fan of dogs,
yes, then
there's a lot of petting that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. It's an awesome place. So
I love it. Okay, so Argren Blue, tell me, is this book out now? Is it coming? Give me some details on this.
So this was the first book, Spirit Sight.
Okay,
you can see it's a huge book.
It's huge.
So the publisher at some point asked me to split it. So now it is
2 books.
2 books, Volume 1 and Volume 2.
Okay.
And while I was writing Spirit Sight, I started to think about the people in this book that they're called Aleos, which is actually Norwegian for all of us. They are peaceful people, and they are dominated by this authoritarian empire. and I started to think, well, how did these people learn to start fighting back, right? Because they don't have any history of warfare or violence. And so I wrote Argren Blue I started Argren Blue to try to explain that.
Right.
How did they learn to start fighting back? So it's actually won several awards as a coming of age book. The reviews have all been spectacular.
Yeah.
So we think it's an amazing book. But it tells the story of how a young group of Aleos start to resist.
Right. They form Ostera, our struggle. Oh, and he's also written a language. Yeah,
I created a language for.
Sure. Let's just create a language while we're at it. Wow.
But it has a lot of plot twists. It's a coming of age. It's got art history.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Yeah. So the next one in this prequel series is Desoltai, and it is about these women assassins. They're not just assassins, but
there's a group of women who decide they can't deal with the
Volan Empire,
patriarchal empire. So they go off on their own.
But they're Volan women. They're of the Volan caste.
So it's funny when I wrote that first, and then I discovered there are groups of women all around the world who are doing that. Who.
Like in Japan, there are women who are going,
separate themselves from men and link themselves economically to one another.
Right. And they may not be gay. A lot of times they're not, but they're just like, we don't really need you.
Yeah.
And so
the Desoltai decided they couldn't militarily resist the empire.
Right.
So they decided to make themselves economically
wealthy,
really wealthy. And so this woman, Tove, who is originally in this book, suffered a terrible abuse when she was young. And so when she finds out about these women, she says, I have to go.
I want to join. But she would have been the first Alaos.
She's the lower caste.
Right.
And so the Desoltai is the story of how she becomes a member of this group, even though she's a lower caste. Huh. So that story delves a lot into prejudice and the ways that prejudice and bigotry can impact people.
Yeah.
There are so many levels to what you're doing. Wow. There's so many levels to this.
Yeah. Well, but that's kind of what we love. It is a really immersive world because of it. Like there's economic and there's art and there's like poetry. I have to write a poem. That's my next thing.
So there's like the trilogy now, because they asked me to split the book. And I tend to write really long books.
Yeah.
The trilogy is actually going to be 6 books.
Right.
And there's going to be 4 prequels.
We thought there were going to be 3, but then we had to split the other one. So we're looking at 10.
They're all interrelated with one another.
Right.
So if you read the prequel, you'll see how did this. If you read the main trilogy, you'll see that things happen. And if you read the prequel, you'll say, oh.
That's what
happened.
This involves a lot of spreadsheets and timelines.
Yes. How do you keep them all straight? Wow.
It's tough, but you know what? I love those kind of books, the ones that are really immersive.
Right.
And the ones that really draw you in and make you go, okay, why did that happen?
Or you see a character.
Find that right. You see a character in another book.
Right.
And you go, oh, I know who that is. Right. And I know why they're there. Right. So that's
kind of like Easter eggs. Do you know what I mean? Like in movies, you just go, oh, wait, they were, okay. And so that's what we're hoping our readers.
Right. So that's what and then the book after Desoltai is going to this rebel group is called Ostera. And at the end of Argren Blue, the guy who's kind of the leader of the group decides we can't defeat the empire
militarily
through violence alone.
Right. We can't kill them. We can't. There's not enough of us to kill them.
We have to follow Desoltai's example and make ourselves enormously powerful through our will.
Yeah.
And so the book after Desoltai is about how did this ragged group of kids put themselves in a position to do that.
Right. To become an economic power.
Right.
Which a lot of times in fantasy you don't see. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't deal with the economics of the culture. It's like there's good guys and there's bad guys and there's magic and there's this maybe a little bit of Game of Thrones, but not as bloody.
It's a kinder, gentler Game of Thrones.
Yes. Right? Much kinder.
Yeah.
Nothing too.
No red weddings in my book.
No red weddings.
No.
Yes. No brothers and sisters having sex with each other. None of that.
That stuff. No. Okay. So you got to a point, I think you were saying, Ross, where you were writing, and that's when Deb kind of made her entrance into all of this, where she was kind of like being your sounding board, if I'm getting this correct, and you're kind of giving her what you're working on, and she's giving feedback, and you're kind of having that dialogue as you're writing. And that works for the two of you then, right?
Yeah. So initially, she would read what I wrote, and we were having that disconnect about what I was needing from her, right? And so when I started writing Argren Blue, we had finally kind of worked out a way to work with each other. But when I got into the middle of Argren Blue, and I sort of ran into a roadblock, which happens from time to time, and then with experience, you realize, okay, I can get past this. But since she was reading what I was writing each week anyway, we started to talk about, instead of her responding to what I wrote, we started talking about, where could it go?
Right.
What can this character do?
Right.
And that's when we started to actually, in the prequels, started to kind of developing them together.
Right.
And in Argren Blue, the Argren Blue part is the name of a blue pigment, and the actual history of blue pigments in our world is fascinating. And there have been blue pigments that are more valuable than gold, right? And so that's where the name comes from.
Right.
And I remember the day that we were sitting at the Husky. I even remember where we were sitting. The day that we came up with that kind of concept at the center of the story.
Right.
And after that, it was just got to be just really natural thing.
Yep.
I write, then she reads what I write, and then we talk about whether that worked and where it needs to go. And we develop the story. And so in Desultai, we've gone even tighter, right? The story is definitely our story.
Yeah. And some of it too is one of the things that I'll push on, or is that some of it's just for me. Like, okay, where do we need to get by the end? Like in order, and then this gets harder and harder. This gets to be like Jenga, jigsaw puzzles, because there's actually a big broad story throughout the whole thing, like a big overarching story. All the pieces have to fit. So Ross is going, no, we can't do that because of the timeline. No, we can't do that. That person's too old. That person's too young. That's not the right time. It's not. So then I keep asking, and I know he's already asking that himself, but like, okay, by the end of this book, where do we need to be? Where do the characters need to be? What absolutely needs to happen in order to set up the next piece?
Yeah, and the farther you get into the
tougher it gets.
The series, the more constraints you add.
Right.
So to that last book and be like Patrick Rothfuss or George R. Martin and never be able to finish that last book.
No, and my mom has told him he has to. She's 86. She's read all of the books, and she says you have to finish them before I die. So we got to get on it.
No pressure.
She's in really good health. Yeah. She's really healthy. So I think, knock wood, we should be good.
So Deb, what does it feel like to now see your name on the cover of the book as well? Like you've been a part of the process from the beginning. I can tell just by the relationship the two of you have. I would love to meet the two of you in person because you look like so much fun. And
the door's open.
I would love a beer. I would love a beer too. But Deb, your name's on the cover now.
Yeah.
To you, what does that mean to you? What does that feel like?
Well, it's a little awkward, in a good way, because people assume that I wrote it. And so we have to be really clear. Like, I didn't write the words. And it's not my author's voice, which is one of the reasons I'm working on my own short stories and my own things separate, and why I really stepped into doing all the stuff for like the promos for the next book, because that's writing too, very different. But I was just really shocked when he said that I was going to have both our names on it. And we have to, I feel like I always have to say, Ross is the one who's writing the books. We're collaborating on the story, because I don't want, particularly when it comes to the parts with women, people assume I wrote all the women parts, because how could any man ever figure this out? And he's the writer. And in fact, I think he's more in tune than me. I'm like a little bull in the china shop kind of person. I miss the subtext. I've gotten better because of him. But, like we say, oh, men, they're so clueless. I'm like, so, So.
Yeah, I get way too much subtext. And she doesn't get that much.
Way too much.
So.
Yeah.
It works out. But, I mean, the book, her name's on the book because a big part of the stories was she contributed to. Yeah. Right. So even though I do the writing.
Yeah. But I just always want to make sure everybody knows that. And at some point I'll have things that are just mine. I don't know whether it's going to be novels or just short stories or whatever, but I will have my own. But one of us still has to earn a living.
Yeah. Because I'm retired.
And
And I remind her every day.
He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm going to go to work.
And believe me, retirement is all that it's cracked up to be.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. You don't have to hide from your job to go write your next book, which is great. You can just write. Now you have to hide from your book to go your next job. I don't know. It's the other way now, right?
I did kick him out of the house for a couple of days. I said, just go up to Door County just to write. Well, just because he needed to, get away from, everything.
From retirement.
I love how the two of you work together. I think you're both better as authors by doing this. And the fact that you have somebody in your corner, I'm sure you have to go to your own separate corners at times to kind of think through what's going on. And then you come back and continue writing. But I love the fact that you're not doing this on your own and that you have each other, because you don't know what you don't know. And someone else can see around corners where you can't see it. You're so caught up in what you see in front of you that another perspective can just create a new story or a new theme. Something can happen just by a conversation. I love this.
Yeah. I mean, when I was writing Spirit Sight, it was mostly on my own, and I would be just up all night trying to solve some story problem. Right. And I still do that a little bit, but now I have a person I can go to and say, let's talk about this character, and it's just, and it's good for the writing, but it's just so much fun.
Yeah. We're having a really great time, honestly.
I wouldn't want to do it any other way.
And then the one other thing I do is buck him up when he's sure that the books stink.
Yeah.
And it's like, honey, look at the Kirkus reviews. Look at the reviews you've gotten. They're really, really good. This is a really tough market. It's really hard to break in and find a way. And we were like turning ourselves around in circles, just trying to go, how do we get people to read the book? And then we kind of got to the point of like,
just going to write.
We're just going to write.
We can and,
do what we can. Like this is great. Love the podcasts. And do the launch events and do some things. But if it's making us unhappy, we're just not going to do it.
No.
Yeah. It's exciting. Well, if a podcast is in your future, I would listen. So you already have a listener and you haven't even started the show yet. So my hand's in the air. I'm ready to go. To have more of the two of you, I would love to hear that and be kind of a fly on the wall. And wherever you take a podcast, I would be listening for sure. And I know a lot of the authors would love to get some insight beyond even this conversation. So to have you on a regular basis, if that's a little push for you guys, hey, you already have a listener. So proof of concept. You're ready to go.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's exciting. So, okay, take us through the website again. where the books are available, and maybe timelines on what's coming up in the future, that would be great.
The website is rosshightower.com, and it has information on the 3 books that are out right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're available everywhere. Well, not brick and mortar stores. We haven't had any luck with getting into those yet, but Amazon, Kobo, Barnes and Noble, etc.
Mm-hmm. And Black Rose, the publisher.
The publisher, you can get it directly from there. Or if you email me, I have like a ton of book copies here, right? So I'll send you a signed copy.
We overbought. You want send us your address and we will send you a signed copy.
We were way optimistic. But also, the Zoltai, the next prequel book comes out in November 1st.
And then
year.
Spirit
and
Light.
The Spirit Light Volume 1, which is the next book in the trilogy, comes out.
The series, can't call it trilogy anymore.
Well, it's technically a trilogy because it says right there on the cover.
Okay.
It's a 6-book trilogy.
It's a trilogy for the math impaired.
Right.
Math is
because I write stories that are way too long. But that book comes out August 1st of next year.
Right.
Okay.
So we got a bunch coming.
I usually invite my guests to come back as they work on new projects. I think I'm just going to have you back every week. I don't know, like you have so many things going on.
Okay.
But would you come back in the future and update
Absolutely.
us on everything? Okay, because
Sure.
then the people listening to the show get to have a little bit more of you while we wait for the podcast to roll out. We'll just have you back as a guest. You kind of pseudo podcast as a guest for now. So
if you have us back on every week, that will be our podcast.
There you go. Done.
I don't think you want to do that. That's a little bit of us goes a long way. Deb is a lot. Let's just put it that way. There's a lot.
I'm going to need my own ale just for that. I'll have to look into that.
Get in line. I'm like, Jesus, Deb, you just wore me out. And all I did was talk to you.
I love it. Thank you both for doing this.
Thank you so much.
We're just meeting today and hitting record, and I love this, that we can have a great conversation like this. You guys are so engaging. There's something good ahead for both of you, and I'm really excited to watch with great anticipation for what's coming next. Your relationship is amazing. The two of you, how you bounce off each other. It's great. It's a great, for anybody listening, this is probably one of the best ways you could write is if you can find someone in your corner like this and do this together. I think your writing's going to be better because you have somebody else there to kind of work with.
Absolutely.
Thank you to the both of you.
Thank you.
Come back as often as we can get you back, and head over to rosshightower.com and grab your copies and watch as more things come. And whenever you buy, please, wherever you buy, leave a great review. Let people know about the book. Tell everyone. And it's, holiday season's coming. You're looking for gifts. You just found them. So now you need to buy all of them and just give them a
Yes. And they're ready to ship.
Ready to go.
And they will be, just tell us whatever you want written on them, and we are happy to oblige.
There you go. Excellent. And if you're looking for a great festival coming up soon, Milwaukee's going to be the home of something amazing.
Argren Fair.
Right there.
Fall 2024, fall 2024.
Bring your own paintbrushes, right?
Yes.
Bring your own paintbrushes. Yeah, I love it.
That's right.
Awesome. Thank you both for doing this. I really appreciate it.
All right.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for checking out Living the Next Chapter. Happy to have you here. And here at the end, I want to just put this shout out to authors listening. If you want to sell more books, if you want to build community, one of the best ways you can do that is by guesting on podcasts and or having your own podcast. So I have a podcast called the How to Podcast series, and I help people start podcasts. I also do editing. I also help with social media, website design. I do all those things in addition to being the host of this podcast and the 6 other podcasts that I do, including How to Podcast series. I think you would be the perfect person to start a podcast. I would love to help you. Head over to howtopodcast howtopodcast.ca, howtopodcast.ca. Reach out, let me know if you're interested in starting a podcast, and I want to work with you. Thanks for listening to Living the Next Chapter. Catch you on the next one. Take care.
Ready to take your story to the next level? It's time to get off the sidelines and share your story. Join us at Creative Con, where you'll learn the actionable steps from experts and doers to turn your dreams into reality. Whether you're an aspiring podcaster, a seasoned pro, new or published author, speaker, creative, visionary, or dreamer crafting your message, this is your moment to shine. Our panels, workshops, keynotes, and networking opportunities will help you overcome the roadblocks, effectively articulate your message, and share your message to the masses. Discover how to position yourself as an industry leader by leveraging podcasting, publishing, production, and promotions. For those seeking purpose beyond the corporate grind, we'll ignite your passions and guide you to a more fulfilling path. If you've ever thought about breaking free from the 9-to-5 routine and taking control of your destiny, we'll show you how. Authors, you'll learn to expand your horizons and broaden your reach. Creative Con is where you'll find confidence, support, and a clear roadmap to success. If you've ever doubted yourself, this is your chance to step out of your comfort zone and make your creative dreams a reality. Secure your Creative Con tickets now for our virtual December 2nd event and our 2-day live event February 17th to 18th at creativecon.com. That's creativecon.com, creative with an 8. The future is yours. Speak it, write it, live it.